Before we get into the story, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10. And at the end, enjoy the story. The early morning light filters through the thin curtains of Riley's studio apartment, painting soft gold across the worn hardwood floor. For exactly 4 minutes, she allows herself to lie still in bed, eyes closed, pretending today might be different. Pretending her body doesn't ache from yesterday's double shift at the diner. Pretending the stack of bills on her kitchen counter might have magically disappeared overnight. But the alarm on her phone shatters the illusion at 5:47 a.m., and reality crashes back with the weight it always carries. She pushes herself upright, every muscle protesting. 3 jobs, 4 hours of sleep. This has been her life for 8 months now, ever since her mother's medical bill swallowed her savings whole and left her drowning in debt she never would be ever asked for. Riley works the breakfast and lunch shift at Rosie's Diner in downtown Chicago, answers phones for a medical billing company from 3 to 7 p.m., and cleans office buildings from 9 p.m. until 2 a.m. Sleep happens in fractured pieces, stolen moments between obligations that never end. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror shows the cost. Dark circles shadow her green eyes. Her auburn hair, once glossy and thick, hangs limp around her pale face. At 20, she looks a decade older. She splashes cold water on her face, ties her hair back, and pulls on the same black pants and white shirt she wears to the diner every day. There's no time for breakfast, no time for anything except the relentless forward motion that keeps her from collapsing completely. The October air bites through her thin jacket as she steps outside. Chicago's morning streets are already alive with traffic and commuters who don't see her, don't notice another exhausted woman rushing to catch the bus. She's become invisible in her own life, a ghost moving through spaces without leaving a mark. It's safer this way, she tells herself. Being invisible means no one asks questions she doesn't want to answer. The bus lurches through morning traffic, and Riley leans her forehead against the cool window, watching the city wake up. Expensive cars slide past, carrying people to lives she can barely imagine anymore. Lives with vacations and retirement accounts, and the luxury of choosing rest. She closes her eyes against the envy that tastes bitter on her tongue. Rosie's Diner sits on the corner of Madison and Clark, a chrome and vinyl throwback that serves the best hash browns in the city and attracts everyone from construction workers to businessmen in $1,000 suits. Riley has worked here for 3 years, long before her mother got sick, when she still had dreams of finishing her business degree and maybe, someday, opening her own restaurant. Those dreams feel like they belong to someone else now. She ties her apron around her waist and pastes on the smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. "Morning, Riley," Rosie calls from behind the counter, her weathered face creasing with concern. "You look tired, honey." "I'm fine," Riley lies, grabbing her order pad. The words come automatically now, smooth and practiced. Always fine, always managing. Always one missed shift away from complete disaster. The morning rush begins, and Riley moves through it on autopilot. Coffee, eggs over easy, wheat toast, hash browns, crispy bacon. Her feet already hurt, but she has 6 more hours here, then the phone job, then the cleaning shift. The math of exhaustion is simple and unforgiving. "Order up!" the cook shouts, and Riley delivers plates with mechanical efficiency, her smile never slipping, even as her hands tremble slightly from fatigue. At 8:30, the door chimes, and Riley glances up from wiping down table 6. 3 men enter, and something about them makes the air in the diner shift. They wear suits that don't belong in this neighborhood, tailored and expensive, charcoal and navy, fitted perfectly to broad shoulders. But it's not the clothes that make Riley's instincts prickle. It's the way they move, the careful awareness in their postures, the way their eyes scan the room as if cataloging exits and threats. They take the corner booth, the one with a clear view of the door. Riley approaches with her pad and her practiced smile, trying to ignore the way her heartbeat has quickened. "Morning, gentlemen. What can I get you?" The first two men order without looking up, their voices clipped and professional. But the third man, the one sitting against the wall, raises his eyes to meet hers. And Riley forgets how to breathe. He's younger than his companions, maybe 30 pizza fusaif, with dark hair swept back from a face that belongs in a museum. All sharp angles and perfect proportions. But it's his eyes that trap her. Slate gray, intelligent, and intensely focused. They don't just look at her, they see her, really see her, perhaps for the first time in months. The moment stretches, electric and unsettling. "Coffee," he says finally, his voice low and smooth, with an edge that makes her skin visual. "Black and the breakfast special." His gaze doesn't waver, and Riley realizes she's been staring. Right away, she manages, breaking eye contact and hurrying toward the kitchen. Her hands shake slightly as she clips the orders to the wheel. She tells herself it's just fatigue, just exhaustion playing tricks on her nervous system. But when she brings the coffee and feels his eyes tracking her movements, she knows it's something else entirely. Something that feels like danger and salvation wrapped together in a way she doesn't understand. Riley refills coffee cups and delivers plates, acutely aware of the corner booth, even while and her back is turned. The man with the gray eyes speaks quietly with his companions, but twice she catches him watching her, not the way men sometimes watch waitresses, with casual appreciation or entitled interest. This is different. Calculating, purposeful. It makes her nervous in ways she can't name. She chi-chis clearing table 4 when her phone vibrates in her apron pocket. She shouldn't check it during her shift, but the hospice center has been calling more frequently lately. Her mother's condition has been declining, the cancer winning despite the treatments that devoured Riley's savings, and then some. She glances at the screen, and her stomach drops. 3 missed calls from her mother's nurse. Her hands go cold. Rosie sees the expression on Riley's face and waves her toward the back. "Take 5 minutes, honey." Riley nods gratefully and steps into the narrow hallway by the restrooms, her heart hammering as she returned to the The nurse's voice is gentle but firm. "Miss Carter, your mother had another microepisode this morning. She's stable now, but the doctor thinks you should come as soon as you can." Riley closes her eyes, leaning against the wall for support. "How long?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. "Days, maybe a week. I'm so sorry."
The phone slips from Riley's shaking fingers, clattering on the tile floor.
She slides down the wall, pulling her knees to her chest as tears she's been holding back for months finally break through. Days. Her mother has days, and Riley is trapped in this endless cycle of work and unable to take time off, unable to afford the luxury of being present for the end. The unfairness of it crushes her lungs, makes breathing impossible. She doesn't hear footsteps approaching until a shadow falls across her. She looks up through blurred vision to find the man from the corner booth standing there, his gray eyes studying her with that same intense focus. Riley scrambles to stand, wiping furiously at her tears, a humiliation flooding hot through her chest. "I'm sorry, I'll be right back to your table," she stammers. He's faster, bending to retrieve it and holding it out to her. His fingers brush hers as she takes it, and the contact sends an unexpected jolt through her exhausted system. "Are you all right?" he asks. It's not polite small talk. The question is direct, demanding honesty. "I'm fine," Riley lies reflexively, but her voice cracks on the words. His eyebrow raises slightly, calling out the obvious falsehood without saying a word. She looks away, unable to hold that penetrating gaze. "Thank you for—" She gestures vaguely at the phone, then moves to step past him. He doesn't block her path, but something in his presence makes her pause. "What's your name?" he asks. "Riley," she replies without thinking, then wonders why she answered. "Riley Carter." He nods once, as if confirming something he already knew. "I'm sorry about your mother, Riley." Her head snaps up. "How did you—" she starts, but he's already turning away, walking back toward his booth with the same controlled grace he entered with. Riley stands frozen in the hallway, her mind racing. He couldn't have overheard her conversation. She'd spoken too quietly, and the diner noise would have drowned out her words. So how did he know? The rest of his breakfast is uneventful, if she doesn't count the way her awareness of him never dims. When the three men finish and stand to leave, the gray-eyed stranger places a $100 bill on the table for a $30 meal. Riley starts to call after him about the change, but he's already gone, the door chiming behind them. She picks up the bill with trembling fingers. It's more money than she makes in tips all week. Under the bill is a business card, heavy cream stock with raised lettering. No company name, just a name, Dominic Sebastian Kane, and a phone number. On the back, written in bold, masculine handwriting. "Call me when you're ready to stop suffering." Riley's breath catches. The words are simultaneously an offer and a challenge, a lifeline extended from a stranger who shouldn't know she needs one. She tucks the card into her pocket, her heart racing with something that feels dangerously close to hope. The rest of her shift passes in a fog. She moves mechanically through orders and refills, but her mind keeps circling back to gray eyes and impossible knowledge, and the promise implied in 10 words. At 2 p.m., she clocks out and takes the bus to her second job, the medical billing office, where she answers phones and explains payment plans to people as desperate as she is. 4 hours of other people's medical debt, of hearing the same exhaustion in their voices that lives in her own. At 7 p.m., she has exactly 1 hour before her cleaning shift starts. She buys a protein bar from a vending machine and eats it standing on the corner, watching the sun set over the Chicago skyline. The city looks beautiful from here, gleaming towers catching the golden light. She used to love this city, love its energy and possibility. Now, it just feels like an expensive prison she can't escape. Her hand finds the business card in her pocket, her thumb tracing the embossed letters of his name, Dominic Sebastian Kane. She could Google him, should Google him, but some instinct holds her back. Whatever she might find would either confirm her worst suspicions or give her too much information to resist calling. And she can't call. She doesn't know this man, doesn't know what he wants or what calling him would cost. Lifelines always come with strings attached, but as she boards the bus to the office building where she'll spend the next 5 hours on her knees scrubbing floors, Riley keeps the card in her pocket, pressed against her, palm like a talisman, like a secret, like a possibility she's not quite ready to examine too closely. The office building Riley cleans at night is downtown, 40 stories of glass and steel occupied by law firms and financial companies. She enters through the service entrance where the night cleaning crew gathers, pulling on rubber gloves and loading carts with supplies. Most of the crew doesn't speak much English, and Riley doesn't speak much Spanish, but they communicate in tired smiles and shared understanding of what it means to clean up, after people who make in a day what they make in a month. Her assignment tonight is floors 20 through 25. She works alone, moving through empty offices with industrial-strength cleaner and microfiber cloths, emptying trash bins and vacuuming expensive carpet. The work is mindless, which is both blessing and curse. It leaves too much room for thinking, for the nurse's voice to echoing in her head. Days, maybe a week, for imagining her mother in that hospital bed, alone, because Riley can't afford to miss even one shift. She's scrubbing the executive washroom on floor 23 when her phone rings. She doesn't recognize the number, but at 11 p.m., any call is potentially about her mother. She answers with her heart in her throat. "Miss Carter," a smooth male voice says. "This is Marcus Chen. I work with Dominic Sebastian Kane." Riley's grip on the phone tightens. She should hang up. Should pretend this call never happened. "How did you get this number?" she asks instead, her voice steadier than she feels. "Sebastian Kane wanted me to inform you that he's arranged a few things. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., a car will pick you up from your apartment to take you to Mercy General Hospital. Your mother will be transferred to a private room, and a specialist from Johns Hopkins will be consulting on her case. All expenses are covered." The words land like physical blows. Riley sits down hard on the closed toilet lid, her vision swimming. "I don't," she starts, but her throat closes around the words. "I didn't ask for this. I can't accept this. Mere Sebastian Kane anticipated you might say that. He asked me to tell you that this isn't charity. He has a proposal for you, and he'd like to discuss it tomorrow after you've seen your mother. The car will wait for you." Riley's hands are shaking so badly she nearly drops the phone. Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? "Those are questions better answered in person, Miss Carter. Will you be ready at 10? She should say no. Should hang up and block the number and pretend this isn't happening. But the thought of her mother, are in a private room, seen by a specialist. Comfortable in her final days. The thought breaks something in Riley's chest. "Yes," she whispers. "I'll be ready." She doesn't sleep at all that night. After her cleaning shift ends at 2 a.m., she goes home to her studio apartment and sits on the edge of her bed, staring at nothing. Her mind races through possibilities, each more frightening than the last. What could a man like Dominic Sebastian Kane want from her that would be worth this kind of expense? The obvious answers make her stomach turn, but she pushes them away. His eyes hadn't looked at her like that. His interest had been different, assessing her for some purpose she couldn't fathom. At 6 a.m., she gives up on sleep and showers, washing away the chemical smell of cleaning products. She has no idea what to wear to meet a man who casually throws around money like he did this morning. She settles on her one pair of dark jeans and a cream sweater that isn't stained or threadbare. In the mirror, she still looks exhausted, but maybe slightly more human. She braids her hair and applies minimal makeup, trying to look like someone who has her life together, trying to hide the desperation that clings to her like a second skin. At 9:50, she stands by her apartment window, watching the street. Right on time, a black town car pulls up, so out of place in this neighborhood that her neighbors will be gossiping for weeks. The driver, a broad-shouldered man in a dark suit, gets out and opens the rear door. Riley takes a deep breath, grabs her purse, and heads downstairs before she can talk herself out of it. The car's interior smells like leather and expensive cologne. The driver says nothing as they pull into traffic, heading toward Mercy General. Riley sits with her hands folded in her lap, trying not to think about what this ride might cost her. The hospital comes into view too quickly, and then she's being escorted through the main entrance to the private wing she didn't know existed. A wing where the walls are painted in soothing colors, and the nurses speak in quiet, respectful tones. Her mother's new room is 3 times the size of her previous one, with a window overlooking the city and equipment that looks brand new. But Riley barely registers any of it because her mother is sitting up in bed, more alert than she's been in weeks, and she's smiling. "Riley," she says, her voice weak but clear. "They moved me this morning. The doctor says there's a new treatment option." Riley crosses to the bed, taking her mother's hand, tears streaming down her face. "I know, Mom, I know. They talk for an hour, the most lucid conversation they've had in months. Her mother doesn't ask how this miracle happened, too grateful for the reprieve to question it. But Riley can feel the weight of debt settling around her shoulders, heavy as chains. When a nurse gently suggests her mother needs rest, Riley kisses her forehead and steps into the hallway. The driver is waiting. Sebastian Kane is ready to see you now, Miss Carter. Riley nods, wiping her eyes, and follows him back to the car. This time, they don't head back to her apartment. They drive toward the river, toward the part of the city where historic buildings house exclusive restaurants and private clubs. The car pulls up to a hotel Riley recognizes from magazine spreads. All Art Deco elegance and old money discretion. The hotel lobby is all marble and crystal chandeliers. The kind of place Riley would never enter on her own. The driver escorts her to a private elevator, that requires a key card, and they ride in silence to the top floor. The doors open directly into a penthouse suite that takes Riley's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcase panoramic views of Chicago. The river winding like a silver thread through the city. The furniture is modern and minimal. Is bien dived in its simplicity. Dominic Sebastian Kane stands by those windows, hands in the pockets of perfectly tailored black pants, white shirt rolled to his elbows. He turns as Riley enters, and once again, those gray eyes pin her in place. "Miss Carter," he says, gesturing to a seating area. "Thank you for coming." Riley forces herself to move toward the indicated chair, her heart pounding. Her voice comes out steadier than she expects. "I need to know what this is, what you want from me." He doesn't sit, remaining standing, which gives him a psychological advantage she resents. Direct. "I appreciate that. Would you like something to drink? Water? Coffee?" She shakes her head, too nervous for anything but answers. He nods and moves to sit across from her, close enough that she can see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the precise edge of his jaw. "I need to eat someone I can trust," he begins, his voice low and measured. "Someone who doesn't have connections to my world. Someone desperate enough to accept an unusual arrangement and competent enough to be useful." Riley's throat tightens. "And you think I'm that person? I know you are. I've had you vetted, Miss Carter. I know about your mother's cancer, your 3 jobs, your student debt, the car you had to sell, the credit cards you maxed out trying to keep her alive. I know you haven't had a day off in 8 months and you're averaging less than 4 hours of sleep a night. I know you're drowning. The invasion of privacy should make her angry, but she's too exhausted for anger. What do you want from me?" she asks again. "I need an assistant," he says. "Someone to manage my schedule, handle certain communications, accompany me to business dinners and events, someone who can be trusted with sensitive information and who won't ask too many questions." Riley laughs, the sound bitter and sharp. "You want me to work for you. Why the elaborate setup? Why not just offer me a job?" "Because this isn't a normal job," he replies, leaning forward slightly. "The people I do business with, they're not always conventional. You'll see things, hear things that require absolute discretion. That kind of loyalty can't be bought with a standard salary. So you bought it by saving my mother's life." Riley's voice is flat, understanding the trap she's already caught in. Dominic's expression doesn't change. "I'm offering you a way out of the life that's killing you. Your mother will receive the best possible care for whatever time she has left. All her medical bills, past and present, will be paid. Your debt will be cleared. You'll move into a secured apartment I own, fully furnished. You'll have a salary of $200,000 a year, plus expenses. All I ask in return is your time and your silence." Riley's mind reels at the numbers. $200,000 is more than she's made in the last 4 years combined. It's enough to erase the crushing weight of debt, enough to actually breathe again. But nothing in life is free, especially not this. And if I refuse, she asks, though they both know she won't. Then your mother returns to her shared room, the specialist goes back to Baltimore, and you go back to your 3 jobs and 4 hours of sleep. He says it without malice, just stating facts. I'm not trying to coerce you, Riley. I'm offering you a choice. But we both know you need what I'm offering. She hates that he's right. Hates the powerlessness of her position. What aren't you telling me? She asks, searching his face for clues. What's the real catch? The real catch, he says, his gray eyes never leaving hers, is that once you're in my world, you don't leave it. The people I associate with, the things you'll be exposed to, you can't unknow them. You'll be protected, I guarantee that. But you'll also be bound to me, in ways that go beyond a standard employment contract. Riley's pulse quickens. That sounds like a threat. It's a warning. I need you to understand what you're agreeing to. She should walk away. Should thank him for his help with her mother and decline this Faustian bargain. But the image of her mother's face, alert and hopeful for the first time in months, fills her mind. And beneath that, a deeper truth she barely wants to acknowledge. Part of her is curious about this man, about the world he inhabits, about what it would mean to step out of her small, suffocating life into something larger, even if it's dangerous. She takes a deep breath. How long? She asks. How long would I work for you? Dominic leans back, satisfaction flickering in his eyes. 1 year, minimum. After that, if you want to leave and can do so safely, you're free to go with a severance package that will set you up for life. 1 year, 12 months of her life in exchange for freedom from the debt that's drowning her. 12 months with this enigmatic man who sees too much and offers salvation wrapped in silk and shadows. Riley meets his gaze and sees her own desperation reflected back. I have conditions, she says, surprised by the strength in her voice. I want to visit my mother whenever I need to. I want your word that you won't. Her throat tightens. That you won't expect anything intimate from me. This is a business arrangement only. Dominic's expression doesn't change. Agreed. You'll have access to a car. And drive her 24/7 for visits to your mother. And I have no interest in women who aren't willing, Riley. What I need from you is your competence and your loyalty. Nothing more? Riley takes a shaky breath. Okay, she says, the word feeling like jumping off a cliff. Okay, I'll do it. Dominic nods once, standing smoothly. Good. A contract will be drawn up by my attorney. You'll start Monday. That gives you 3 days to quit your current jobs and move into the apartment. A moving service will handle everything. All you need to bring are personal items. Riley stands as well, her legs unsteady. That's it? No training? No orientation? A slight smile touches his lips. We'll handle orientation as situations arise. For now, go home. Get some real sleep. You look like you're about to collapse. The observation, though accurate, stings. Riley lifts her chin. I've been managing just fine. His gray eyes soften almost imperceptibly. I know you have. That's why I chose you. Strength under pressure is rare. The unexpected compliment catches her off guard, warming something in her chest she thought had gone cold months ago. The driver appears silently, and Dominic walks her to the elevator. One more thing, he says as the doors open. The people in my world, they'll test you. Try to find weaknesses. Leverage. Don't show them your fear, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified. Riley steps into the elevator, turning to face him. And what if I'm terrified of you? She asks. The doors begin to close, but not before she sees his response. Good. You should be. The ride home passes in a surreal blur. Riley stares out the window at the city she thought she knew, realizing it has hidden layers she's never seen. Layers where men like Dominic Sebastian Kane evaporate, wielding power that has nothing to do with political office or corporate boardrooms. When the car drops her at her apartment building, her neighbors stare openly. She climbs the stairs to her studio and closes the door, leaning against it as the magnitude of what she just agreed to crashes over her. She's sold herself to a stranger, bound herself to a man whose business is mysterious and clearly dangerous. For money. For her mother. For the chance to breathe again. She slides down the door until she's sitting on the floor, hugging her knees to her chest. Is this who she's become? Someone who can be bought? But even as the thought forms, she knows it's not that simple. Desperation doesn't leave room for moral high ground. She did what she had to do, what anyone in her position would do. Her phone rings, making her jump. It's Rosie from the diner. Riley, honey, I just heard you quit. Some lawyer called saying you gave 2 weeks' notice, but they're paying it out so you don't need to come in. Are you okay? What's going on? Riley closes her eyes. I got a better opportunity, Rosie. A job with benefits, normal hours. It's time for a change. Rosie's silence speaks volumes before she finally says, well, if you're sure you're okay, you know you can always come back if this new thing doesn't work out, right? Thank you, Riley whispers. But she knows there's no coming back from this. The next 3 days pass in a whirlwind that feels orchestrated by invisible hands. Dominic's people handle everything with frightening efficiency. Movers pack her meager belongings. The bills on her counter disappear, paid in full. Her landlord receives notice and a check for breaking the lease. Riley feels like a doll being positioned by unseen forces, but beneath the unease is overwhelming relief. For the first time in 8 months, she sleeps more than 4 hours. She wakes on the second day and realizes her body doesn't ache. She eats a real breakfast instead of a protein bar. She visits her mother twice, and each time, her mother looks better, more comfortable, more like herself. On Monday morning, Riley stands in front of her new apartment building, a sleek high-rise in a neighborhood she could never have afforded. The doorman greets her by name. Miss Carter, welcome. Your apartment is ready. 28th floor, unit 2807. The elevator is smooth and silent, depositing her into a hallway that smells like new carpet and fresh paint. Her hands shake slightly as she unlocks her door, but when it swings open, her breath catches. The apartment is beautiful. Modern furniture in grays and creams, a full kitchen with granite countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city. A bedroom with an actual closet, not just hooks on the wall. A bathroom with both a shower and a tub. On the kitchen counter is a note in the same bold handwriting from the business card. Welcome. Make yourself at home. A car will pick you up at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Dress professionally. Dominic. Next to the note is a black credit card with her name embossed on it and a new smartphone, top of the line. Riley picks up the phone and finds it already paid. Two contacts, Dominic, Marcus Chen, the driver, her mother's hospital room. She wanders through the apartment touching furniture, opening cabinets stocked with dishes, standing at the windows watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. This is her life now. This impossible, beautiful, terrifying life. That night, she lies in a bed that doesn't creak, wrapped in sheets with a thread count she can't fathom, and tries to process the transformation. 1 week ago, she was invisible, drowning, barely surviving. Now she's here, in this place that feels like a dream. But dreams end, and she's not naive enough to believe this comes without a price. Whatever Dominic Sebastian Kane needs her for, whatever world she's about to enter, it will demand more than administrative skills and discretion. She can feel it in her bones. The question is whether the cost will be worth the salvation he's offered. She falls asleep without an answer, but with a certainty that there's no turning back now. Tomorrow, her new life begins in earnest, and Riley Carter will have to become someone else. Someone strong enough to survive in the shadows where Dominic Sebastian Kane lives. At 8:55 the next morning, Riley stands in front of her new closet, staring at the clothes that appeared overnight. Tailored pants and silk blouses, structured blazers, elegant dresses, all in her exact size. She reaches for a charcoal pantsuit and cream blouse. The fabric so fine, it feels like water between her fingers. She dresses carefully, applies makeup with more precision than usual, and pulls her hair into a sleek, low bun. The woman in the mirror looks professional, polished, nothing like the exam wishes from the. She barely recognizes herself. The town car is waiting when she steps outside, the same driver as before. "Morning, Miss Carter," he says, opening the door. She slides into the back seat, her hands folded carefully in her lap to hide their trembling. The driver takes them to the financial district, pulling up to a building of dark glass and steel that reflects the morning sun. The driver escorts her through security, past business people rushing to offices, into a private elevator that requires a key card. They rise to the top floor, and the doors open directly into an office suite that takes Riley's breath away. The space is masculine and modern, with dark wood, leather furniture, and those same floor-to-ceiling windows that seem to be Dominic's signature. A receptionist desk sits near the elevator, currently empty. Past that is a seating area, and beyond that, a large office with glass walls and an imposing desk. Dominic stands behind that desk, speaking into his phone in a language Riley doesn't recognize. He glances up as she enters, his gray eyes tracking her from head to toe in a single assessing sweep. He says something final into the phone and ends the call. "Perfect timing," he says, gesturing for her to enter his office. "Close the door." Riley does, acutely aware of being alone with him in this space that smells like leather and his cologne. He moves to a sitting area, not behind, into the imposing desk, and she wonders if it's meant to put her at ease. It doesn't work. "Have you had breakfast?" he asks. "I ate at the apartment," she replies. He nods. "Good. We have a full day ahead. First, some ground rules." He leans back in his chair, completely at ease while Riley sits rigidly on the edge of the sofa across from him. "Your main office is here, though you'll work from various locations as needed. Your job is to manage my schedule, handle specific communications, accompany me to meetings and events. Some of these will be, shall we say, unconventional." Riley's stomach tightens. Define unconventional. He studies her for a long moment. "I have business interests in several sectors: real estate, import-export, hospitality. Not all of my associates conduct business in traditional ways. You'll attend dinners where deals are made without contracts. You'll hear conversations that don't happen in boardrooms. Your job is to observe, remember, and above all, never repeat what you see or hear." The implication is clear. He's involved in something that operates outside legal boundaries. Riley swallows hard. "And if someone asks me questions? About you? About what no. "You know nothing," he says flatly. "You're my assistant. You manage my calendar, not my business. That's your answer to everyone. Always." She nods, her mouth dry. "What else?" He stands, moving to the windows, and she can't help but notice the way he moves, controlled and deliberate, like violence contained in expensive clothes. "You'll need to learn quickly how to read situations and people. My world operates on perception and respect. Show weakness, and you become a target. Show too much strength, and you become a threat. You need to find the balance, be professional, competent, but not threatening." Riley joins him at the window, looking out at the city stretching below. "And how do I do that?" she asks. by watching me, by learning. He turns to face her, close enough now that she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. By trusting that I won't put you in situations you can't handle. Can I trust that? She asks, surprising her Steuerlauf with the directness. A faint smile touches his lips. Vibio. But you can trust that you're valuable to me, and I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in the statement sends a shiver down her spine. She's not his, not in any real sense, but the way he says it makes her feel claimed anyway. She turns back to the view, needing distance. When do I start? You already have. Tonight, there's a dinner. You'll accompany me. His eyes narrow slightly at her tone. You'll wear the black dress that's hanging in your closet at home. The car will pick you up at 7. Riley's jaw tightens. I'm not a doll you dress up. No. You're my employee, and how you present reflects on me. This isn't negotiable, Riley. The use of her first name, casual and intimate, makes her pulse quicken. She wants to argue, to establish some boundary, but she knows he's right. She agreed to this. She took his money, accepted his help with her mother. She doesn't get to pick and choose which parts of the arrangement she follows. Fine, she says. The word clipped. Good. Now, let's go over today's schedule. He moves to his desk, and Riley follows, pulling out the new phone he gave her. For the next several hours, he walks her through his calendar, introduces her to the complex web of meetings and contacts, explains the filing system for sensitive documents that exist only in physical form, never digital. Riley absorbs it all, taking notes, asking clarifying questions, falling into the rhythm of work that feels familiar even in this strange context. Around 1, Marcus Chen arrives with lunch from a restaurant Riley recognizes from magazine reviews. Dominic introduces them properly. Marcus is my attorney and right hand. Anything you need, anything that concerns you, he's your first point of contact. Marcus, mid-40s. With sharp eyes behind designer glasses, shakes her hand. Welcome to the organization, Miss Carter. I hope your transition has been smooth. As smooth as can be expected, she replies, accepting the takeout container he hands her. They eat in Dominic's office, and Riley realizes this is her life now, working through lunch, discussing schedules and deals in vague terms that never quite specify what's actually being negotiated. The afternoon passes in a blur of learning systems and memorizing names. Riley meets several of Dominic's associates, men in expensive suits who assess her with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion. She keeps her expression neutral, her responses professional and minimal, the way Dominic instructed. By 5 p.m., her head aches from information overload and the constant tension of being evaluated. Dominic dismisses her with a reminder about dinner at 8, and the driver takes her home. She has 2 hours to prepare for whatever tonight will bring. The black dress hanging in her closet is elegant and understated, hitting just above her knees with long sleeves and a neckline that's professional but flattering. Riley showers and takes more care with her appearance than she ever did for the diner. She dries her hair into smooth waves, applies makeup that enhances rather than masks, fastens simple gold earrings that were waiting on her dresser alongside the dress. When she's ready, she looks like she belongs in Dominic's world, even if she doesn't feel like it. At exactly 7, the car arrives. This time, Dominic is already in the back seat, dressed in a dark suit that probably costs more than Riley used to make in a month. His eyes travel over her and he nods in approval. Good. You look the part. Riley slides in beside him, hyper-aware of the enclosed space and his proximity. Where are we going? She asks. A restaurant in Little Italy? We're meeting with the Moretti family. Old connections that require maintenance. What do I need to know? He angles his body toward her. Luca Moretti is the patriarch. He's traditional, old world, respects courtesy and discretion. His son, Marco, runs the daily operations. He's ambitious and less patient than his father. Watch Marco. He'll try to test you, see if he can rattle you or find leverage. Riley's pulse quickens. How should I handle that? Don't engage beyond pleasantries. If he asks personal questions, deflect. If he gets inappropriate, I'll handle it. The certainty in Tall and his voice is oddly reassuring. The restaurant is a small, unassuming place on a quiet street, the kind that doesn't advertise because it doesn't need to. The owner greets Dominic like family, embracing him and speaking rapid Italian before leading them to a private room in the back. 4 men are already seated, 3 older and 1 younger, all turning to assess the newcomers. Dominic's hand finds the small of Riley's back, a gesture that looks casual but feels possessive. Luca, he says warmly, shaking hands with the patriarch. Thank you for meeting with me. Luca Moretti is perhaps 70, with silver hair and sharp dark eyes that miss nothing. Dominic, always a pleasure. And who is this lovely young woman? My assistant, Riley Carter. Riley, say hello to Luca Moretti and his sons, Marco, Anthony, and Joseph. Riley smiles politely, shaking hands with each man. Marco's grip lingers too long, his eyes traveling over her in a way that makes her skin crawl. An assistant, he says, his tone making the word sound suggestive. How very modern of you, Dominic. Dominic's expression doesn't change, but Riley feels the tension coil through his body. Very modern, he agrees smoothly, guiding Riley to a seat beside him. They order wine and food, and the conversation flows in English peppered with Italian phrases. Riley listens more than she speaks, watching the dynamics play out. Luca is measured and thoughtful. His older sons defer to their father. But Marco, he keeps pushing, making small provocations, watching for Dominic's reaction. Halfway through the main course, Marco turns his attention fully to Riley. So, Miss Carter, what brings you to work for Dominic? Must be quite the opportunity. Riley takes a sip of wine, buying herself a moment. I needed a change, and Mr. Sebastian Kane offered a position that aligned with my skills. Marco leans forward. And what skills are those exactly? Managing schedules, handling communications, administrative work. How? Boring. I would have thought Dominic would need someone with more specialized talents. Riley feels Dominic's hand on her knee under the table, a warning and a reassurance. She keeps her expression pleasantly neutral. Fortunately, I'm very good at what I do. Marco's smile doesn't reach his eyes. I'm sure you are. Luca intervenes smoothly, changing the subject back to business. Some dispute about territory and shipping routes that Riley doesn't fully understand, but dutifully files away, in her memory. The rest of the meal proceeds without incident, but Riley can feel Marco's gaze returning to her repeatedly. When they finally stand to leave, Marco corners her by the door, while Dominic speaks with Luca. You should be careful, he says quietly. Dominic has a reputation for using people up and discarding them. Riley meets his eyes steadily, remembering Dominic's advice about showing fear. Then I suppose I should make myself indispensable. Marco laughs, surprised. Maybe you'll last longer than I thought. Dominic appears at her side, his hand reclaiming its position on her back. Ready? He asks. She nods, letting him guide her out to the car. Once they're inside, driving away, Dominic's expression finally shifts, frustration flickering across his features. You handled Marco well. Riley exhales shakily, the adrenaline of the evening catching up to her. I just said what you told me to say. He looks at her, really looks at her, and something shifts in his eyes. You did more than that. You stood your ground without escalating. That's not easy, especially for someone new to this world. The unexpected praise warms her chest. Thank you. They ride in silence for several blocks before Dominic speaks again. This is what most of your evenings will be like. Dinners, meetings, navigating personalities, and power plays. Can you do this? Riley thinks about her mother, comfortable in her hospital room. About the apartment she came home to tonight, warm and safe. About the weight of debt that no longer crushes her. Yes, she says, I can do this. He nods. Good, because it gets harder from here. The next month passes in a strange rhythm that Riley slowly adapts to. Her days are spent in Dominic's office, managing his schedule, fielding calls, learning the complex hierarchy of his organization. She attends dinners and meetings, always at his side, always watching and listening. She meets more people than she can count. Men with hard eyes and expensive watches. Women who cling to those men's arms like decorative accessories. Riley learns to navigate conversations that say everything and nothing, to read tension in a room, to know when to speak and when to stay silent. It's exhausting in a completely different way than her old life was. Mental rather than physical, but just as demanding. Dominic is an exacting boss, his standards high and his patience for mistakes limited. But he's also fair, praising her when she handles situations well, offering guidance when she stumbles. And he keeps his word about her mother. Riley visits her 3 times a week, and each time she finds her mother comfortable, well cared for, with the specialist checking in regularly. The gratitude Riley feels is tinged with guilt, knowing what she's doing to earn this care, but she pushes that guilt down. Her mother is dying, but she's dying with dignity and without pain. That's worth whatever price Riley has to pay. What surprises her most is that Dominic never crosses the boundaries he set. His touches are professional, necessary for appearances. His interest in her is related to her work. He's demanding but not cruel, controlling but not abusive. She starts to see glimpses of the man beneath the cold exterior, the way he has loyalty to people who work for him, ensuring their families are cared for, the way he keeps his word, always, the strict code he operates by, even if that code exists outside legal frameworks. Riley finds herself less afraid of him, and more, not comfortable, but less wary. It's a dangerous shift, and she knows it. 6 weeks into her new job, Riley is working late in Dominic's office, organizing files, while he takes a call in the other room, when Marcus appears with an expression that makes her stomach drop. We have a problem, he says quietly. There's been an incident at one of Dominic's warehouses. Federal agents are asking questions. Riley's blood runs cold. What kind of incident? The kind that requires Dominic to make himself scarce for a few days until we sort it out. And you need to go with him. Riley's hands still on the files. Why me? Because anyone who's been close to him lately will be questioned. Better if you're not available. How long? Marcus checks his watch. The car leaves in 20 minutes. You'll be gone 3, maybe 4 days. Riley's mind races to her mother. I can't leave. My mother will be fine, Marcus interrupts. I'll personally make sure she has everything she needs. But you need to go. Now. Riley stands, her heart pounding. Where are we going? Upstate. Dominic owns a property there. Remote? Secure. His expression softens slightly. I know this is a lot, Miss Carter, but this is part of what you signed on for. The unpredictability. Riley nods, swallowing her fear. Okay, 20 minutes. She calls her mother from the car. Manufacturing a story about a business trip, hating the lie, but knowing the truth is impossible to explain. Dominic joins her 10 minutes later, dressed casually in dark jeans and a sweater, looking less like a businessman and more like someone dangerous. They pull out of the city as dusk falls, heading north on highways that grow progressively emptier. Neither of them speaks much. Dominic works on his laptop, making calls in low tones, his expression grim. Riley stares out the window, watching the city give way to suburbs, then to dark stretches of forest. After 2 hours, they turn onto a private road that winds through dense woods. The house, when it appears, isn't what Riley expected. Not a mansion, but a large, modern cabin of glass and wood, perched on a hillside with views of mountains and lake. The driver deposits them at the door with their bags, then heads back the way they came. Riley realizes with a start that they're completely alone. No driver, no Marcus, no staff, just her and Dominic in this isolated place, cut off from the world. Her pulse quickens as he unlocks the door and ushers her inside. The interior is all open space and clean lines. A living area with a stone fireplace, a kitchen with professional-grade appliances, floor-to-ceiling windows that would showcase stunning views if it weren't fully dark outside. "There are 2 bedrooms upstairs," he says, setting down his bag. "Take whichever you prefer." Riley nods, grabbing her suitcase and climbing the stairs on legs that feel unsteady. The bedrooms are equal, both with ensuite bathrooms and comfortable furnishings. She chooses the one farthest from the stairs, a small attempt at claiming space and distance. When she comes back down, Dominic has started a fire and is pouring drinks at the He holds up a glass in question. Riley shakes her head. "I don't drink much. Smart." He takes a sip of what looks like whiskey, staring into the flame. "I'm sorry for pulling you away so abruptly. This isn't what you signed on for." Riley sits carefully on the edge of the sofa. "Actually, I think this is exactly what I signed on for. I just didn't understand it at the time." He turns to look at her, his gray eyes reflecting firelight. Are you afraid right now?" She considers lying, then doesn't. "Yeah, of what?" "Of being here alone with you. Of whatever trouble is happening back in the city. Of how far I've come into your world without really understanding where the boundaries are." He moves to sit across from her. "The boundaries are wherever you set them, Riley. I told you I don't force women. That hasn't changed just because we're isolated here." She believes him, realizes with surprise that she does trust him, at least in this. Okay, they sit in silence, the fire crackling, the isolation wrapping around them like a blanket. Finally, Dominic speaks. "You've done well these past weeks. Better than I expected." "Why?" She meets his eyes. "Because I don't have a choice. Failure isn't an option." He studies her. "Everyone has a choice. You could have walked away that first day." Riley shakes her head. "No, I couldn't." "Not really." His expression softens almost imperceptibly. "I know. That's why I chose you." The next morning, Riley wakes to sunlight streaming through windows she forgot to curtain, and the smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. For a disoriented moment, she doesn't remember where she is. Then it all comes crashing back. The warehouse incident, the rushed departure, this isolated cabin in the mountains. She pulls on jeans and a sweater and pads downstairs, barefoot, to find Dominic in the kitchen, cooking. The sight is so unexpected that she stops on the bottom stair, staring. He glances up, spatula in hand. "Good morning." Coffee's fresh. "Breakfast in 5 minutes." "You cook," she says, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "I have many hidden talents, Riley." She pours coffee and sits at the kitchen island, beyond, watching him move through the space with practiced ease. He plates eggs and toast, adding fresh fruit, and slides a plate across to her. They eat in comfortable silence, and Riley realizes this is the most domestic moment she's had in months, maybe years. It feels surreal, sitting here with this dangerous man in this beautiful place, pretending for a moment that they're just 2 normal people sharing breakfast. "Have you heard anything?" she asks, breaking the spell. "About the warehouse." Dominic nods, his expression darkening. Marcus is handling it. The agents don't have enough to move forward. We should be clear to return by tomorrow. Relief washes through her. And what do we do until then? He stands, carrying their plates to the sink. Whatever we want. When's the last time you had a day off, Riley? She has to think about it. 8 months. Maybe longer. He turns to look at her. Then take today. Read, sleep, walk around the property. Enjoy not having obligations for a few hours. Riley wants to protest that she does have obligations, but the truth is, trapped here, she doesn't. There's nothing she can do. Nowhere she needs to be. The unfamiliar sense of free time stretches before her, daunting in its openness. Okay, she says. I'll try. Dominic leaves her to explore, disappearing into a room he's set up as an office. Riley wanders the house, examining the artwork and books, stepping out onto the deck to breathe mountain air and watch sunlight play across the lake below. The view is breathtaking, and for the first time since her mother got sick, Riley feels something like peace. She spends the afternoon reading, curled up in a chair by the windows, losing herself in a novel she found on the shelf. Dominic emerges periodically, checking his phone, making calls in low tones, then disappearing again. They exist in parallel for most of the day, sharing space without demanding interaction. It's comfortable in a way Riley didn't expect. As evening approaches, Dominic starts dinner, and Riley joins him in the kitchen, offering to help. They work side by side, chopping vegetables and preparing pasta, moving around each other in a dance that feels surprisingly natural. She catches herself smiling at something he says, then realizes with a start that she's enjoying this, enjoying his company. The realization is terrifying. Over dinner, he asks about her life before, and she finds herself telling him about her mother, about the slow deterioration of watching cancer steal someone you love, about her father who died when she was 10, about dropping out of college to work when the medical bills started. Dominic listens without interruption, his gray eyes focused entirely on her, and Riley feels seen in a way she hasn't in years. When she finishes, he shares pieces of his own story. Growing up in Chicago with a father involved in organized crime, learning the business young, taking over when his father was killed, the weight of legacy and expectation. They're both, Riley realizes, people shaped by obligation and survival. They've both sacrificed personal desires for duty to family. The parallel creates an unexpected connection, a thread of understanding that spans the table between them. After dinner, they sit by the fire again. But this time, the silence feels different. Charged. Riley is acutely aware of every shift in Dominic's posture, every glance in her direction. When he stands to add wood to the fire, she watches the way firelight plays across his features, voice, highlighting the sharp lines of his jaw, the gray eyes that see too much. He catches her looking and pauses, something flickering in his expression. What? He asks, his voice lower than usual. Riley's heart hammers. I'm trying to figure you out. You're not what I expected. And what did you expect? A monster, maybe. Someone cruel. Someone I couldn't trust. He moves closer, sitting on the coffee table directly in front of her, close enough that she can see gold flecks in his eyes. And now? I'm not sure. You're complicated. He reaches out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucks a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers linger against her cheek, warm and careful. So are you, Riley. So are you. The moment stretches, electric and impossibly fragile. Riley knows she should move, should maintain the professional distance they've carefully preserved, but she doesn't. Instead, she leans into his touch, just slightly, a surrender she doesn't fully understand. Dominic's eyes darken, his thumb tracing along her jaw. This is a bad idea, he murmurs. Why? Riley asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Because you work for me. Because the power dynamic is all wrong. Because once we cross this line, there's no going back. Riley's breath catches. Maybe I don't want to go back. He studies her face, searching for doubt or hesitation. What do you want, Riley? She doesn't let herself overthink it. You, she admits, the word hanging in the air between them. I want you. Something in Dominic's expression shifts, the control he maintains so agorafully fraying at the edges. Are you sure? Because if we do this, if I touch you the way I want to, everything changes. She nods. I'm sure. He closes the distance between them slowly, giving her every opportunity to change her mind. But Riley doesn't. When his lips finally meet hers, it's careful and controlled, a question more than a demand. She answers by reaching for him, her fingers curling into his sweater, pulling him closer. The kiss deepens, and all the tension and awareness of the past weeks ignites into something Riley has no name for. She only knows that she's burning, and she doesn't want to stop. Dominic pulls back first, breathing hard, his forehead resting against hers. Last chance, Riley. If you want to stop, tell me now. Instead of answering, she kisses him again, and this time there's nothing careful about it. His control fractures, and his hands frame her face, his thumbs stroking her cheekbones as he kisses her with an intensity that steals her breath. Riley has been kissed before, but never like this. Never with this consuming focus, as if she's the only thing in his universe. He pulls her to her feet, and they stumble toward the stairs, mouths still connected, hands exploring. In his bedroom, he lays her on the bed with a tenderness that contrasts sharply with the hunger in his eyes. He undresses her slowly, reverently, and Riley feels beautiful in a way she hasn't in years. When skin meets skin, when he makes her his, in ways that go beyond any contract or arrangement, Riley realizes she's been fooling herself. This isn't just physical. This isn't simple. She's falling for him, has been falling since that first morning in the diner when his gray eyes saw past her exhaustion. Afterward, they lie tangled together. Riley's head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her shoulder. That was not maintaining professional boundaries. She murmurs and feels him laugh, the sound rumbling through his chest. No, it wasn't. Regrets, he asks, and there's something vulnerable in the question that makes her heart ache. No, she says honestly. You? He tilts her face up to his. Not even close. They fall asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and Riley feels safer than she has in years. In the morning, they return to the city, but everything has shifted. The dynamic between them has changed in ways neither can fully articulate. At the office, they maintain professionalism, but there are moments, his hand lingering on hers when passing documents, the way his eyes follow her across the room, the tension that hums between them constantly now, acknowledged and waiting. That evening, instead of the driver taking Riley home, Dominic drives her himself. He walks her to her apartment door, and when she invites him in, he doesn't hesitate. They spend the night together, and Riley realizes this is becoming real. Whatever started as a transaction has transformed into something neither of them expected. Over the next weeks, they fall into a new rhythm. Days of professional distance, nights of intimacy that erases the boundaries they've crossed. Riley visits her mother, whose condition is finally stabilizing thanks to the specialist's care. And her mother notices the change in her daughter. You look happy, she says one afternoon, her thin hand squeezing Riley's. I am, Riley admits. There's someone. Tell me about him, her mother urges. So Riley does, editing the dangerous parts, focusing on how he makes her feel. Seen, valued, protected. Her mother smiles. That's all I wanted for you, sweetheart. To find someone who treats you like you're precious. But Riley's happiness is fragile, built on foundations she knows are unstable. Dominic's world is dangerous, his business operating in shadows that sometimes bleed into violence. She sees more than she wants to, hears things that keep her awake at night. And always, there's the knowledge that she entered this world through desperation, that the power imbalance that exists between them didn't disappear just because they're sleeping together. One night, lying in his arms in his penthouse, Riley voices her fears. "What happens when the year is up?" she asks. "When my contract ends." Dominic's hand stills on her back. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. I can't imagine going back to my old life, but I'm not sure I can stay in this one forever." He's quiet for a long moment. "Would you stay if I asked you to? Not as an employee, but as something more." Riley's heart stutters. "What do you mean?" "I mean this," he says, tightening his hold on her. "You and me, without expiration dates or contracts. Just us choosing each other." Riley turns to look at him, seeing vulnerability in his eyes that mirrors her own. "Are you asking me to be with you? For real?" "I'm asking if you think you could love someone like me. Someone whose life will never be normal or safe. Someone who comes with complications you didn't sign up for." Riley's throat tightens with emotion. "I think I already do. Love you, I mean. I didn't plan to, but I do." His kiss is tender, full of promise and possession. "Then stay. Not because you're obligated to, but because you want to. I'll take care of you, Riley. Your mother, your future, everything. Just stay." It's not a romantic proposal exactly. It's more practical, tinged with the reality of his world. But Riley hears the emotion beneath his words, sees the man who's opening himself to her in ways he probably doesn't do for anyone, and she realizes her answer has been forming for weeks. "Okay," she whispers. "I'll stay." 3 months later, Riley stands in a hospital room, holding her mother's hand as machines beep softly in the background. Her mother has been asleep for hours, the morphine keeping her comfortable in these final days. Dominic sits in the chair by the window, his presence a steady anchor. He's been here every day this week, taking time away from his business to support Riley through this. The specialist said it would be soon, maybe hours. Riley has had time to prepare, time to say everything she needed to say. But preparation doesn't make the loss easier. When her mother's breathing finally slows and then stops, Riley feels Dominic's arms around her before she even realizes she's collapsed. He holds her through the storm of grief, steady and strong. And Riley knows she's not alone anymore. She is him and he is her. And somehow they've built something real out of desperation and danger. At the funeral, people from Riley's old life look at her with curiosity and concern. "She's changed," they whisper. "She looks different, richer, harder." But Riley doesn't care what they think. She stands beside Dominic, his hand holding hers, and says goodbye to the woman who raised her to be strong. Her mother wanted her to be happy, to find someone who treasured her, and against all odds, Riley did. 6 months after her mother's death, Riley has fully integrated into Dominic's world in ways she never imagined. She's no longer just his assistant, but his partner in every sense. She attends meetings where she offers input, her business degree finally getting use. She's learned to navigate the dangerous personalities, complex politics of his organization. She's become indispensable, and not because of her contract, but because of her competence and the trust Dominic places in her. And somewhere along the way, the other people in his world stopped seeing her as just another woman in his life and started treating her with the respect they show him. She's earned her place, but with that integration comes exposure to realities Riley can't ignore. She sees the violence firsthand when a rival organization makes a move against one of Dominic's operations. She watches Dominic make decisions that blur moral lines she once thought were clear. She understands now that the money keeping her comfortable, the resources that saved her mother, all of it comes from enterprises that exist outside the law. And she has to decide whether she can live with that. Whether love is enough to overcome the knowledge of what his empire is built on. It's Marcus who finally addresses it, finding her one afternoon in Dominic's office looking troubled. "You're having doubts," he observes, sitting across from her. Riley doesn't deny it. "How do you justify it? The things we do? The people we hurt?" Marcus leans back, his expression thoughtful. "I don't. Justification implies. I think what we do is right. I just think it's necessary." Riley frowns. That's not an answer. He sighs. "The world Dominic operates in, it exists whether we participate or not. Someone will control these territories, these operations. Someone will profit from human vices and weaknesses. Dominic at least has a code. He doesn't deal drugs, doesn't traffic people. His violence, when it happens, is targeted and proportional. He takes care of the families of the men who work for and for him. He's not good, Riley. But he's not the worst either." Riley wants to argue, but she knows Marcus is right. The world isn't black and white. It's endless shades of gray. And she's chosen to live in those shades with a man she loves. The question is whether she can accept that choice without losing herself. That night, she confronts Dominic. "I need you to be honest with me. About everything. About what you do, who you hurt, how far you'll go." He doesn't flinch from the demand. "Okay, what do you want to know?" "Everything." So he tells her about the protection rackets and the gambling operations, about the loans with crushing interest rates, about the violence he's ordered, the men who've died on his commands. He doesn't sugarcoat or excuse. He lays it all out with brutal honesty, and Riley listens with her stomach in knots. When he's done, he waits, his expression unreadable. "Now you know. If you want to leave, I'll help you disappear. Set you up somewhere safe where none of this touches you." Riley processes it all, the weight of the knowledge settling on her shoulders. "I'm not leaving," she says finally. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Don't let this world touch me beyond what I already know. I'll work for you, I'll be with you, but I won't be part of the violence. I can't." He moves to her, cupping her face in his hands. "I promise. You stay clean, Riley. Whatever I do, whatever decisions I make, they don't touch you. You're the one good thing in my life. I'm not letting this world corrupt that. It's not a perfect solution." Riley knows she's complicit by association, that her comfort comes from morally compromised sources. But she also knows she loves him, and love doesn't always make sense or follow the rules she thought were absolute. So she makes her peace with the gray areas, with being the light in his darkness, while accepting that darkness exists. And slowly, she starts to see ways she can influence him toward better choices. Not change him fundamentally, but guide him when options exist. She becomes his conscience in small ways, and to her surprise, he listens. A year after she first entered his world, Dominic takes Riley to a small vineyard in Napa he recently acquired. They spend the weekend walking through grapevines and tasting wine, pretending for a few days that they're just a normal couple. On the last evening, they stand on a terrace watching the sunset paint the hills in shades of gold and purple. Dominic hands her a small velvet box, his gray eyes soft in ways they never are in the city. "I know this isn't traditional, and I know my world isn't what you dreamed of, but I'm asking anyway. Will you marry me, Riley? Will you choose this life? Choose me for as long as we both live?" Riley opens the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring, elegant and understated, exactly what she would have chosen for herself. She looks at the man who saved her from drowning, who saw her when she was invisible, who loves her despite knowing all her fears and doubts. And she realizes the answer has always been yes, since that first morning in the diner, since he asked her name, since he offered her a lifeline. She's been moving toward this moment. "Yes," she says, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." They marry quietly, a month later, just a handful of people present. Marcus stands as Dominic's best man. Riley wears a simple white dress and carries lilies, her mother's favorite. When Dominic slides the ring on her finger and promises to protect and cherish her, Riley believes him, not because he's perfect or because their life will be easy, but because he's kept every promise he's made to her so far. And when she promises to stand by him through whatever comes, she means it. Because love, she's learned, isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth fighting for, worth compromising for, worth choosing every day, despite the complications. She's found that in Myanmar's Dominic, and she's not letting go. 2 years after Riley first walked into Rosie's diner, exhausted and invisible, she stands in the penthouse she now shares with Dominic, looking out at the Chicago skyline. So much has changed that she barely recognizes the woman she used to be. That woman worked 3 jobs and slept 4 hours a night. That woman was drowning in debt and desperation. This woman, the one reflected in the window, is rested and healthy. She manages a legitimate foundation Dominic established, one that helps families dealing with catastrophic medical expenses. It's her way of taking the money from his Mtwich and redirecting it towards something good. Her way of balancing the scales, even if just a little. Her phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. The meeting with the hospital board is confirmed for Thursday. "Your presentation is excellent, by the way." "Very compelling." Riley smiles. She's spent months putting together the proposal for a new wing at Mercy General, dedicated to cancer patients, funded entirely by Dominic's foundation. It will be named after her mother. The irony isn't lost on her that money from illegal enterprises will save lives in her mother's name. But she's made her peace with contradictions. Life is full of them. She's learned to live in the tension between light and shadow, between the legitimate front of their life and the reality of what funds it. And she's learned that she's stronger than she thought, capable of navigating moral complexity without losing herself completely. Dominic comes home as the sun sets, loosening his tie as he enters. He finds Riley on the balcony, wrapped in a cashmere throw against the October chill. He slides his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he murmurs against her neck. Riley leans back into him. How different everything is now. How different I am. "Regrets?" he asks, and she can hear the vulnerability beneath the casual question even now. 2 years into their marriage. "No," she says, turning in his arms to face him. "Not about you. Not about us. Maybe about some of the things I had to learn to accept, but not about choosing you." His kiss is soft, grateful. "I don't deserve you." She smiles against his lips. "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." They spend the evening as they often do now, cooking dinner together, but Kadirin and talking about their days. Dominic tells her about a property acquisition in River North. Riley shares her excitement about the hospital wing proposal. They exist in domestic normalcy that would shock anyone who knew Dominic's reputation. But this is who they are behind closed doors. Just 2 people who found each other in desperate circumstances and chose to build something real. After dinner, Dominic pulls Riley to the couch, his expression turning serious. "I need to tell you something," he says, and her stomach tightens. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Actually, it's the opposite. I've been gradually shifting the business, moving away from the operations that troubled you, transitioning to more legitimate enterprises. Real estate development, hospitality, investment portfolios. It's taken 2 years, but we're almost completely clean now. Riley stares at him, hardly daring to believe. You're serious? He nods. I'm tired, Riley. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of the violence and the moral compromises. And I want a different life for us. Maybe for a family. If that's something you want. Tears prick Riley's eyes. You'd do that? Walk away from everything your father built? I'm not walking away. I'm transforming it. There's a difference. And yes, I'd do that. For you, for us, because you made me want to be better than I was. Riley kisses him then, pouring every ounce of love and gratitude into it. I want that too, she whispers. All of it. A life we don't have to hide. Maybe kids someday. A future that looks different than the past. He holds her close. Then that's what we'll build. Together. 6 months later, Riley stands in the new cancer wing at Mercy General, surrounded by hospital staff and patients. A plaque on the wall reads, "The Margaret Carter Wing for Cancer Treatment and Research," donated by the Sebastian Kane Foundation. Her mother's name in brass, permanent and honored. Riley touches the letters, tears streaming down her face, and feels Dominic's hand on her shoulder. She would be proud of you, he says softly, of who you've become. I hope so, Riley replies. I hope she'd understand the choices I made, the compromises. He turns her to face him. You survived. You adapted. You found a way to help others while protecting yourself. That's all any of us can do. Riley nods, believing him. She's not the same woman who rushed through the diner doors that cold morning, terrified and desperate. She's been broken down and rebuilt, transformed by love and circumstance into someone stronger. Someone who can exist in moral complexity without losing her core. Someone who can love a complicated man and build a life that's both beautiful and imperfect. That night, they host a small celebration at their home. Marcus is there with his wife. A few key people from Dominic's organization who've made the transition to legitimate business with him. And Riley realizes she has a family now, cobbled together from unlikely sources but family, nonetheless. As she moves through the room, ensuring everyone has drinks and food, she catches Dominic watching her with an expression of such open adoration that her breath catches. He crosses to her, ignoring everyone else, and pulls her close. Happy, Mrs. Sebastian Kane? He asks. Deliriously, she replies. You. He kisses her forehead, more than I ever thought possible. 3 years ago, I was going through the motions, building an empire but not really living. Then you walked into my restaurant, and everything changed. Riley smiles. I was drowning, and you pulled me out. He shakes his head. No. We saved each other, and it's true. Riley understands that now. She didn't just benefit from his rescue. She changed him too, made him want to be better, gave him a reason to build something meaningful beyond power and profit. They saved each other. Two broken people who have found wholeness in the least likely place. As the evening winds down and guests depart, Riley stands once more at the windows to Dominic joins her, wrapping his arms around her waist. The city glitters below them, full of people. Just drowning and being saved. Riley thinks about the woman she was, exhausted and invisible, and the woman she is now, seen and loved and whole. She thinks about her mother, gone, but memorialized in the lives that will be saved in her name. And she thinks about the future stretching ahead, uncertain but no longer terrifying, because she won't face it alone. Dominic kisses her neck, and Riley leans into him, into this life they built from desperation and darkness and love. It's not perfect. It never will be, but it's theirs, and that's enough, more than enough. It's everything.